All right, example number 1 here. Sally is spinning each of the spinners that are shown below once. First off, is this an independent or a dependent event? So previous, we talked about independent events being things that don't have an impact or an effect on each other. Dependent being they do affect each other. This is definitely an independent event because what happens when you spin the first spinner has no effect or no impact on the second spinner. Okay, part B. How many possible outcomes are there for each spinner? So each spinner we're looking at separately. My number spinner, I can see that there are 6 different spaces. So this one has 6 outcomes. And the other one you can see has 4 outcomes with the 4 different letters. So now we're going to use a tree diagram to show the possible outcomes of both of these events happening. So first thing I'm doing is spinning the first spinner. My possible outcomes when I spin that first spinner are either I could get a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, a 5, or I can get a 6. Those are the 6 possible choices when I spin that first spinner. One of those 6 things is totally happening. Second, we have the second spinner. So let's say my first spinner, I spun a 1. When I spin the next spinner, I could get an A, or a B, or a C, or a D. So that tells me that I have the possibility of getting a 1A, a 1B, a 1C, or a 1D. All right, well, what if I didn't roll a 1 on the first one? What if I got a 2 instead? Well, same kind of process. I can still get a 2A, a 2B, a 2C, or a 2D. And back to 3 as well. And if you want to kind of pause and do this on your own, or fast forward through this part, because I think you get the picture that each number has the possibility of getting an A, a B, and a C, or a D. Okay, so that's our tree diagram, and now we need to determine the possible outcomes. So each of these branches of this diagram, each of these complete branches represents one possible outcome. So one possible outcome is getting a 1A, or a 1B, or a 1C, or a 1D. That's 4 possible outcomes. And yes, I am going to write these numbers down. And yes, you are going to write these numbers down also, because it's the first time and you're learning. I won't make you do this every single time. But on this first time, yes. So that leaves us with 24 possible outcomes. Some might have gotten 60. If you're getting 60, you might have added the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 from the top, which I get why you might think that. But the reason that you don't do that is because each of those, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, they're already included when we look at that bottom row. Like looking at this right here, getting a 1A, that 1 is already accounted for, so we don't count it a second time. Alrighty, so tree diagrams can be useful to find probabilities. So what is the probability of getting at least one A? Well, that's possible of getting an A. Or I could get a 2 and an A. Or I could get a 3A. Or a 4A. Or a 5A. Or a 6A. So that's 6 chances of getting an A, 6 A's, over 24 total outcomes. Which does reduce if you're feeling reducey and you want to turn that into 1/4. Yeah, I realize I skipped part D here, list the sample space. So let's go back and do that. So listing the sample space, that's just, if you go back to the to the definitions, it's a list or a diagram that shows all the possible outcomes. So if I were to list the sample space, I'd list 1A, or 1B, or 1C, or 1D. And then I'd go to 2A, and 2B, and so on and so forth, and 3A, and so on and so forth. How many possible ways do you think you'd be writing down? 24. Okay. All right. Now, more probabilities. Next up, part F. The probability of getting an even number. So, even number, that's a 2, a 4, and a 6. And the letters D or C. So, that would be a 2C or a 2D, a 4C or a 4D. Not 5, because 5 is not even. 6C or 6D. So that is 6 out of 24. Other way you could do that if you weren't using the tree diagram, like old school, back in the old school, like a week ago, going back and looking to my spinners, my original spinners, what is the probability of me spinning this spinner and getting an even number? Well, 2, 4, and 6 are all even, so that's 3 out of 6. So I'm just going to do this down here. 3 out of 6. This is the probability of getting an even number. And then we're going to do the probability of getting D or C next. The probability of spinning my second spinner here and getting a D or a C would be 2 out of 4 total. 2 out of 4. What operation would we do in the middle? Notice the key words of picking an even number and tells us that we're going to be doing that multiplication. And to get 3 times 2, 6 times 4, the same answer that we got already. So just another way that you could potentially do that example.